The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask is currently my favorite Zelda game ever made. Notice though that I said is currently, as Tears of the Kingdom is looking really good so far. I'm not sure which will be my favorite after I'm done playing that one, but I thought it would be fun to make a video on the Zelda series to celebrate Tears of the Kingdom's release. One of the main reasons I love Majora's Mask so much, outside of just the setting, atmosphere, and characters, would have to be the masks. There are 24 masks in the game, and each grant Link a special ability when worn. However, not every mask is as useful as others. Some will go as far as to completely transform Link, whereas some others will simply allow him to get a piece of heart. So today, I thought it would be fun to rank all 24 masks from the worst to the best. This will be generally based on usefulness, or more specifically, how often in the game the player would want to be wearing it. The aesthetic for the mask won't play into the ranking unless its usefulness is tied with something else. You know what, screw it. At the end of the video, I'll do an entirely separate aesthetic ranking just for fun. So with that said, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and let's jump right into the worst mask. There were two masks I was stuck between for the worst option, either the Mask of Sense or the Circus Leader's Mask. Both of these have uses that are, let's just say, barely helpful. They don't help get any major item like a heart piece, nor do they give Link an especially helpful new attribute, so they're definitely the two worst. But of them, which do I like the least? Well, I kept bouncing back and forth, but I think I'm going to have to go with the Mask of Sense. This mask is obtained by completing the Deku Butler's maze. First off, this maze is incredibly annoying. Comment skill issue all you want, I don't care, but this maze is more frustrating to complete than it's worth. But okay, once you actually get the mask, this turns Link into a pig. I do have to say the new idle animation is pretty neat. It's the only non-transformation mask to do that. Link's voice will also get changed to pig noises while he's wearing this. Now I'm gonna be honest, for the longest time, I genuinely thought this mask was useless. However, this does actually do something. It will allow Link to find mushrooms and give them to Kotake for a blue potion. Yeah, that's it. Considering pretty much every other mask gives considerable permanent upgrades of some kind, just getting a blue potion is really lame. I mean, maybe it's just because of how I play Zelda, but I almost never use potions anyway, just having a ton of fairies in my bottles instead. So I think it's safe to say that the Mask of Sense is likely the worst mask in the game. 23, the Circus Leader's Mask. This is our other practically useless one, in the N64 version. See, this is one of the few masks to actually change between the original release and the 3DS release. This video is going to be focused on the original version since that's the one I played most recently. I do probably prefer the 3DS version overall, but yeah, just keep in mind that this is an N64 video. To get this mask, you must complete Toto's soundcheck in the Milk Bar, which will move this Gorman brother to tears. Also neat detail, the song you play here is the Ballad of the Windfish, which is actually a reference to Link's Awakening. But anyway, once you get this mask, what can you do? Well, upon putting it on, Link will start crying like you all do whenever I say I think Mario Galaxy is mid. What does this do for Link? Well, he can wear it to get some unique dialogue from the Gorman brothers at the racetrack. That's kinda interesting, I guess, but yeah, that's really it. Oh wait, sorry, this does actually have a practical gameplay use. Wearing it while protecting Cremia's milk shipment will stop the two Gorman brothers from attacking you. Pretty cool, right? Well, here's the thing. To get the Circus Leader's Mask in the first place, you would have already needed to complete Cremia's milk shipment, because that's what gives you Romani's mask and thus allows you into the milk bar. Yeah, so this mask isn't really helpful. In the 3DS version though, the mask can be used to get an empty bottle, which is definitely a worthwhile reward. That's why I decided to give it the edge in the ranking here. Realistically, both this and the previous mask are equally useless. 22, the Giant's Mask. Okay, I know people are gonna disagree with me, but I hate using this thing. First off, it can only be used in one spot in the entire game, during the Twin Mold boss fight at the end of the Stone Tower Temple. This is also where you get the mask, so this is purely centered around this boss fight. Too bad I hate it. See, the main problem is that the Giant's Mask requires magic to be active. That's unlike any other mask in the game, so it's really a huge disadvantage. Lucky for us though, during the Twin Mold boss fight, Link can break these pillars scattered around the arena to get more magic bottles. Here's the thing though, Giant Link's hitbox sucks. It feels nearly impossible to actually pick any bottle up from the ground. Even if you go and stand right on top of it, Link may not collect it. So then you may try to take off the mask to pick it up while smaller. Well, that just leads to Link spawning miles away from the bottle and not being able to reach it before it despawns. Okay, well why don't we stay as default Link when breaking the pillars in the first place? Well, the only way to break them is with the Giant's Mask or by having Twin Mold run into it, which is a lot easier said than done. All of this leads to this boss fight being my easily least favorite in the game. I always end up running out of magic and having to rely on my bow, which is not very fun. The concept behind the mask is cool, and playing as Giant can be somewhat fun if you get around the magic meter, but I just really cannot stand this thing. I should note that the 3DS version does make this mask a bit better, so it would likely place much higher if this video is about that. But since we're talking about the N64 version, 21, I hate this thing. 21, the Postman's Hat. This is pretty much the only mask to get hindered by how it's obtained, so let's start with how it's actually used. When being worn, it allows Link to check mailboxes and steal people's mail. What a nice guy, that Link. The first time he does this, he'll be rewarded with a piece of heart. Every subsequent time though, it'll just be a green rupee. It could have been neat if they randomized the rupee amount, but whatever, I guess. So yeah, basically this mask, just like many others, is one step to getting a heart piece. Obviously those are very valuable since they're used to increase Link's health. So what makes obtaining this mask so annoying? Well, it's one of the many masks you get on the famous Cafe and Anjou side quest. This is a massive quest requiring a lot of effort to go through, but that doesn't mean it's bad. Heck, the very last item you get in this quest is a mask, so the length isn't necessarily a problem for me. No, the problem with the Postman's Hat is that you have to choose to get it or a bottle. See, during the third day you'll get priority mail, and you have to choose to give it to either Cafe's mother or the postman, who will in turn give their subsequent rewards. Since this is on the last day of the quest, that means if you want to 100% this game, you have to basically do the entire thing twice. This is absurdly repetitive, and it especially sucks on the N64 version where you can't skip time by the hour, so you just end up having to wait around for several minutes to get to the crucial events. I mean, look at this. So yeah, the Postman's Hat is more helpful than what we've seen before, but for having my least favorite method of obtaining it, it gets to place low on the list. 20, Don Garrow's mask. To get this mask, you just have to bring this Goron some food from the village, which compared to our last one is a lot simpler. This allows Link to talk to the frogs in the world, which may sound stupid, but if you're able to talk to all of them after completing the Snowhead Temple, you'll be able to get a piece of heart. There are 4 frogs Link needs to find, one in the swamp, one in Clocktown, one in Woodfall Temple, and another in the Great Bay Temple. The 2 in the temples are the real annoying ones, as you have to make your way through it until you eventually run into their rooms, which can be quite tedious, especially for the one in the Great Bay Temple. All of this just to get a single piece of heart, which is a lot more effort than some of the other heart piece masks we'll see in a bit. If maybe every frog gave you something unique, then I would like this one a lot more, but as it stands, using this mask can be quite tedious for the small reward you get. 19, Cafe's mask. This is the first step of the long Cafe and Anjou side quest. You obtain this mask from Cafe's mother, and you have to use it to show Anjou that you're also looking for the missing Cafe. It was very difficult to figure out how to rank this one because realistically, it's used to obtain several different rewards. On this quest you obtain 3 masks, each of which allow you to get a piece of heart and a bottle. So I wasn't really sure how to count this mask. If you think it belongs above the next 2 because this is what's used to unlock them, then fair enough, but personally, I thought placing it here on the list made the most sense as it's only really used to start off the quest. Speaking of, let's look at the other 2 masks you can obtain from this quest. 18, the Keaton mask, and 17, the Couples mask. Each of these will allow Link to get a piece of heart. The Keaton mask will have Link encounter a Keaton where he then has to answer a few questions correctly to earn the piece of heart. Some of these questions are really stupid though, like how am I supposed to know how many cuckoos are at Romani Ranch? Something I didn't actually know before making this video is that there are actually multiple spots you can find the Keaton. I always thought he was just in this patch of grass in Clocktown, but you can actually find him on Milk Road and in the Mountain Village. He'll only give 1 piece of heart though, so you only ever need to talk to him once. The Couples mask can be used to get a piece of heart from the mayor, as it reminds him of his family. The reason I put the Couples mask higher is because A, its piece of heart is much easier, and B, I like it as the final reward for the big side quest. 16, Kamuro's mask. This can be obtained in Termina Field on the nights of the first and second day. You'll see the ghost of Kamuro dancing on one of the tree things, and you have to play the Song of Healing, which will reward Link with the mask. When worn, this will allow Link to dance. My absolute favorite thing about this is that you can rapidly spam or cancel it. Obviously not practical at all, but I just find it to be very funny. This is used to obtain a piece of heart by teaching these girls Kamuro's dance. So while yes, use-wise it's the same as the last few, the dance mechanic makes me enjoy using this mask much more. 15, the All-Night mask. First off, this may have some of the most interesting lore out of any mask. It's said to have been used as a torture device since anyone wearing it cannot sleep, no matter how hard they try. Yeah, that's pretty scary. Horrifying backstory aside, this can be bought at the Curiosity Shop. It'll only be available though if you stop the old lady from being robbed on the first night, so it's important to do that. Keep in mind though that the mask will be sold for a massive 500 rupees. Don't worry, the price is certainly worth it, as instead of just unlocking 1 heart piece, this will let Link collect 2. Both of them come from Anju's mother in the Stockpot Inn, where you have to listen to one of her stories and give the response she wants to hear. Normally Link would fall asleep because the story is incredibly boring, but with this mask, he'll be forced to pay attention. Each story will give Link a piece of heart, so listening to both will get Link a total of 2. So yeah, this is basically double as useful as the last few masks. 14, Romani's mask. This is given to you by Cremia for completing the side quest at Romani's ranch. This does take a decent amount of effort since you have to defend the ranch from aliens and the Gorman brothers, but the reward is worth it. This mask will give you access to the milk bar, which is used to obtain 3 items. First off, the least important of the 3 is Chateau Romani. This powerful drink costs 200 rupees, but it's pretty worth the price price since it will give Link infinite magic for that 3-day cycle. If I had thought about it beforehand, I could have saved myself a lot of trouble during the Twin Mold boss fight, since this would have fixed all of my problems with it. I'll remember next time. Alongside Chateau Romani, the milk bar will also give Link access to the circus leader's mask. Like we said, it's basically useless, but you can just think of it as one step closer to being able to unlock the Fierce Deity's mask. The final item this allows you to obtain is the bottle from Cafe's mother. Yes, this is the other annoying choice thing next to the postman's hat, but that's not really the Romani's mask's fault, so I'll give it a pass. It's a bit hard to tell if this group of items or the 2 pieces of heart from the All Night mask is better, so it's really up to you. Personally, I like having access to the milk bar more, and the Romani's ranch quests are cool, so I gave this the edge. 13. The Bremen Mask. This is obtained by listening to Guro Guro in Clock Town on the 2nd day or the night of the 1st. He'll confess his crimes to you and dispose of the evidence by giving Link the mask he stole. No need to worry about that though, as this mask can help Link get one of the most powerful items in the game. The Bremen Mask will allow Link to march with his ocarina, which is similarly fun just like Camaro's mask. If Link marches with the baby chickens in Romani's ranch, the man will reward Link with the bunny hood. While yes, it's only one item as opposed to the multiple items of the last few masks, the bunny hood is much more useful than all of those combined. We'll get to it in its own segment, but since the Bremen Mask is what's used to unlock it, it gets a place pretty high itself, and the fun marching animation is certainly a plus. Now our next 3 masks are some of the hardest for me to rank out of any mask in the game, as technically all 3 of these masks are required to beat the game. So you may think that since they're literally required, they should be at the top, and if you think that, I really don't blame you, but for me personally, I found that to be kind of lame. These masks are mostly impractical outside of their story use, whereas some masks above this aren't technically required but are immensely helpful throughout the game. So I decided the best place to put these 3 was above the optional heart piece masks, but below the masks with practical uses in the world. Hopefully that decision is fair enough for you guys. The first of these masks are 12, the Garo's mask. This is obtained by defeating the Gorman brothers on their racetrack. This mask will give you access to Icona Canyon, which is obviously important since it holds one of the game's dungeons. Outside of that, this will just let Link fight Garo ninjas, which will only give some vague hints as to what to do. So while yes, obviously this mask is important to beating the game, it just doesn't really do that much, so it would feel weird to place it super high. 11. The Gibdo Mask. This is received by playing the Song of Healing for Pamela's father, who was corrupted by the Skull Kid. This mask will let Link explore beneath the well in Icona Canyon, as he needs to wear it to ask the Gibdos what they need to pass on. Not only is this kind of a fun mini dungeon to explore, but it's the only way into the ancient castle of Icona, which is required to beat the game. The reason this gets to place above the Garo mask though has to do with the fact that this has much more practical uses in the game world. Wearing this will cause Gibdos and Redeads to no longer attack you. In fact, Redeads will actually start dancing, which is a bit strange, but hey, as long as they're not attacking me. I know when I was younger, I loved this mask because I was terrified of Redeads for the longest time, so having something to defend myself with was really nice. 10. The Captain's Hat. This is our final of the Icona Mask trilogy required to beat the game. To unlock it, Link has to defeat Captain Kita in the Icona Graveyard. Using the hat, Link will be able to talk to the Stall Children and open up graves, which will unlock the Song of Storms, which is required to beat the game. The reason this is higher than the last 2 masks though is that you can actually get a few more optional items out of this. Opening the other 2 graves and finishing them will give Link a piece of heart and a bottle. He can also use the Captain's Hat to learn the order he needs to hit these masks in the Oceanside Spider House for another piece of heart. Technically you can just use the old guess and check method for that, which is what I always do, so really this mask only slightly helps. Add on that this mask will also stop Redeads from attacking you, and you've got yourself easily the best mask of these 3. Alright, our final 9 masks here are useful for not only obtaining other items, but also just throughout gameplay in general as they give Link special attributes. The first of these is 9, the Mask of Truth. This is obtained by completing the Swamp Spider House, and it's certainly worth the effort. It'll give Link the ability to read all of the Gossip Stones scattered around Termina. These can give some pretty helpful hints as to what you're supposed to do in order to obtain most of the items in the game. Obviously the usefulness of that varies based on how much you already know the game, but I think it's fair to say that it still earns being up here. On top of just giving some helpful hints, there are 2 pieces of heart that are obtained using the Mask of Truth. First off, there are some grottos located in Termina Field that contain Gossip Stones. By reading them all, you'll be able to solve what you have to do to obtain a heart piece. The second and more famous use is in the doggy race. Here it'll let you read a dog's mind and more effectively choose a dog to win the race. While all of those uses are extremely helpful, you could technically do everything the Mask of Truth does without it. You could just guess the right dog and already know what the Gossip Stones say from previous playthroughs, but despite that, I still think the Mask of Truth earns placing highly on the list. 8. The Stone Mask. In the N64 version, this is obtained by finding the Invisible Man in Icona Canyon with the Lens of Truth. If you then give him a red potion, he'll reward Link with the Stone Mask. While it's not used to unlock anything, this has the extremely practical use of making Link completely invisible to enemies. While wearing it, as long as Link doesn't attack them first, enemies will just act as Link isn't there. This is helpful all throughout the game as it allows you to entirely avoid conflict. Places like the Pirate's Fortress and Great Bay are made significantly easier while wearing the mask. Sadly, you would have already had to have beaten it by the time you unlocked the mask, but this was luckily fixed in the 3DS version as the Invisible Man was actually moved to be located here instead. But yeah, while this use is definitely quite simple, it's pretty dang helpful. 7. The Blast Mask. This puts a bomb on Link's face. This is obtained by stopping the old woman from being robbed on the first night, where she will then give you the mask in return. The reason this is so helpful is because it lets Link create an explosion without needing to waste a bomb. So if at any point you're running low, Link can just throw this on his face and explode whatever's in his path. It does deal some self-damage, but if Link shields during the explosion, he'll actually avoid it. Which makes no sense because the mask is behind the shield, but whatever. I will say I wish the cooldown didn't take so long, but other than that, this mask is definitely one you'll want to add to your collection as soon as possible. 6. The Great Fairy Mask. Despite being one of the most horrific masks to look at in the game, this is incredibly helpful in all 4 of the game's main dungeons. You get this mask by returning the Clocktown Stray Fairy while in human form. Wearing this mask will allow Link to know when he's in a room with a Stray Fairy. Each dungeon has 15 of them scattered amongst its many rooms, and collecting all of them will reward Link with a few upgrades. These include the Super Spin Attack from the Woodfall Temple, the Double Magic Meter from the Snowhead Temple, the Defense Upgrade from the Great Bay Temple, and finally the Great Fairy Sword from the Stone Tower Temple. All 4 of those are incredibly important while playing the game, so it's safe to say you'll want to be using this mask to collect all of the fairies as much as possible. The mask will emit particle effects while Link is in the room with a fairy. This pointer is super helpful as some of these fairies can be pretty stupid to find. Looking at you, Snowhead Temple Fairy. I know in my recent playthrough, despite not remembering where any fairy was, I was able to complete each dungeon with all of them collected first try thanks to this mask. Now you may think that this would be like the Mask of Truth, where if you know where the fairies are, the mask wouldn't be helpful. That's actually not the case though, as it will also attract freed fairies toward Link, which is even required to collect a few of them in the game that are really far out of range. So I think it's fair to say that this is definitely one of the most helpful masks in the game. 5. The Bunny Hood. We already talked about how to obtain this item with the Bremen mask, so how is that actually used? Well, when equipped, it'll allow Link to run significantly faster, along with making him jump a bit further as well. This is without a doubt one of the best things you can obtain. Link feels super slow, so putting this on and making his run speed feel reasonable is so satisfying. Not only would an upgrade like this be helpful in any Zelda game, but it's especially important in Majora's Mask since the whole game is on a timer, so being able to speed up the process of travel is a huge benefit. So while yes, it is very simple, I think it's fair to say that it absolutely earns being in the top 5. Oh, and also for some reason it makes the timer not disappear in the Postman's 10-second minigame. I'm not sure why, but hey, it lets you get a piece of heart easier, I guess. But our top 4 are of course the game's 4 transformation masks. Each of these are incredibly helpful throughout the game, 3 of which being required to beat it at all. Let's start with the one that isn't, for the Fierce Deity mask. Technically, this is Link's most powerful mask. Heck, it may even be the most powerful item in the franchise. It will allow Link to do an incredible amount of damage along with being able to shoot out sword beams at the cost of some magic. The magic usage is really tiny though, so you don't have to worry about it since by the time you run out, whatever you were fighting would already be dead. Getting this mask is easily the most difficult out of any of them though, as it requires you trade all 20 non-transformation masks to the Moon Children at the end of the game. The reward is certainly worth it though, as it makes the final boss feel like a complete joke. With this mask on, you can kill it within seconds. This is one of my favorite quote-unquote 100% rewards in any video game. Yeah, you don't need all the heart pieces or items, but come on, that's essentially what this is. Sadly though, it can't be number 1, as it does have one major flaw holding it back. It can only be used in boss fights. If it were usable throughout the entire game, this would likely hit number 1, but as it stands, this limitation is just a bit too much. It's still nice to be able to finish the game's dungeons relatively quickly with it, but sadly, I can't say it's better than our other 3 masks. 3. The Deku Mask. This is the first mask Link will earn in the game. After being cured by the Happy Mask Salesman, Link will be transformed from a Deku Shrub into a human, with the ability to transform back when needed. Of the 3 main transformation masks, this is definitely the least helpful, but that's not to say it's useless. Obviously, it wouldn't be number 3 if it were. This will let Link shoot out a snot bubble from his nose, skip across some water, but primarily, it'll let Link use these Deku flowers spread throughout Termina. This gives him a bit of extra height and the ability to glide for a short time, which is helpful for a large number of scenarios. Obviously, it's used a lot in the Woodfall Temple, but there are several other locations where the mask is used to obtain items like heart pieces. More than the other 2 masks though, you never really wear the Deku mask because you want to. Almost every single time is because you have to. The other 2 both have things that make them fun to use outside of what they're required for, so for that, the Deku mask will have to take number 3. 2. The Zora mask. This is obtained by playing the Song of Healing for Macau, who will leave the mask behind after his death. This gives Link the abilities of a Zora, namely being able to throw out his fins, being able to create a damaging shield underwater, and of course, actually good swimming mechanics. This is pretty much essential in navigating the entirety of Great Bay. You can't really even go underwater without it, so you're going to be using this guy a lot. The Zora mask is legitimately very fun to swim with as well, especially compared to the agonizingly slow swimming of the default Link. What's holding this mask back from number 1 is the fact that it's only really useful in a water setting, which is mostly contained to Great Bay. It's so useful here though that this definitely earns its spot at number 2. Number 1. The Goron mask. This is without a doubt the best mask in the game for a large number of reasons. This is obtained by playing the Song of Healing for Darmani, where he'll then leave behind the mask after his death. Well, I guess he's already dead since since he's a ghost, but you get what I mean. This gives Link a large number of abilities that are useful throughout the game. First off, Link can use the Goron mask to have a powerful punch, which is useful for solving Snowhead Temple and even breaking some objects that would previously require bombs. Secondly, the Goron is able to do a ground pound, which is used to activate a few switches throughout the game. But it's the other two uses that I think make this easily the best. While using the mask, Link will be able to pick up the powder keg, which is required to not only enter the Goron racetrack, but also Romani's ranch on the first and second days. This is not only required to beat the game, but each of those locations give Link access to a large number of items, such as other masks, bottles, and so on. The main use of the Goron mask, though, is of course the rolling. This will let Link roll forward at very fast speeds, even faster than the bunny hood. The bunny hood is still useful though, since the Goron's roll is harder to control and requires magic, but both certainly have their uses. The Goron's roll is also able to roll up steep slopes, which can make traversal much less painful. I think it's more than fair to say that the Goron mask is by far the best mask in the entire game. But that's not the end of this video. If you remember from the start, I said I would do a rapid fire aesthetic list at the end, so now it's time to run through that. 24, the Great Fairy's mask. 23, Don Garrow's mask. The frog just does not work as a hat, I'm sorry. 22, the Postman's hat. It's just nothing that notable. 21, the Captain's hat. This is similarly not that notable, but the design is a bit more creative. 20, Romani's mask. It's just a cow hat, and I much prefer actual masks. 19, the Couple's mask. It feels like the most generic looking mask in the game. Not ugly, but if it didn't have the prestige of being attached to my favorite Zelda side quest, I could see it placing lower. 18, the Giant's mask. It looks kinda cool, but I just like the other masks better. 17, the Bunny hood. Not ugly by any means, but I just vastly prefer actual masks that go over Link's face. 16, the Gibdo mask. The mummy look is pretty neat. 15, the Garros mask. This is actually one of the only masks to change how it looks between the 3DS and N64 version. I think I prefer the 3DS version, but they're close. They both look pretty solid. 14, Mask of Sense. Okay, while the actual mask itself is kinda ugly, the pig noises and unique idle animation it gives Link definitely make it a cute addition. 13, the Circus Leader's mask. The crying is very funny. The mask itself doesn't look great, but the crying detail is fantastic. 12, the Freddy mask. Wait, this isn't supposed to be here. 12, the Bremen mask. This mask design is somewhat decent, but the marching animation really pulls this one together. 11, Kafei's mask. I think the hollow eyes are just really funny. It makes the whole thing feel so much more ominous. 10, the Blast mask. It's basically just a black mask with a skull. Skeletons are pretty awesome though. 9, the Mask of Truth. I have always just been a fan of this mask's look and its connection to the Sheikah. 8, the Stone mask. It just looks incredibly goofy and I have to love it. 7, Kamuro's mask. It covering up Link's entire face like this is super unique. But come on, it's mainly here because of the dance. 6, the All Night mask. On top of it having probably the creepiest lore out of any mask, they designed it to fit that lore pretty dang perfectly. I do have to say though, they can never get this item's icon right. I mean, what is this? 5, the Keaton mask. I don't know why, I've just always liked how this looks. It's used a lot in different artworks of young Link, so I'm sure I'm not the only person who feels that way. Again, I can't really explain it, I just like it a lot. Our last 4 are of course the transformation masks, since they give Link an entirely separate model. 4, the Goron mask. While it definitely does fit Link being a Goron, I just found the other transformations to be a bit more interesting. 3, the Zora mask. I think the Zora's design blends better into Link's design than the Goron, but I still think the other two just barely edge it out. 2, the Deku mask. Not only does the design work extremely well, it's easily the most iconic of the main trilogy since it's the one Link starts with. But even this is nowhere close to the number 1 spot. Number 1, by far, is the Fierce Deity's mask. This is one of my favorite character designs in the entire Zelda series. Heck, it may even be my favorite. The color scheme is just so cool. The light blue colors mixed with the gray armor is fantastic. Not to mention the face having those markings and giving Link the old Herobrine treatment with the eyes. This is the most mysterious mask in the game, and while yes, it's heavily based on adult Link, I honestly think that helps it even more. The sword also got a massive update, being this really interesting 2-streak design that is unlike anything else in the franchise. There's a reason this design has been carried over to so many games, being a costume for Link in every Smash game since Brawl, and even being a costume set in Breath of the Wild. Hopefully it comes back in Tears of the Kingdom. I'd really like that. But with that said, I think it's safe to say that the Fierce Deity's mask is easily the best designed mask in the game. But anyways, that's it for this video. Do you think Link should have been able to get the Mario mask? Let me know in the comments. The answer is yes, by the way. It'd easily be the most awesome mask in the game. But speaking of Mario, I hope you all enjoyed this break away from my normal content. I would love to do more Zelda videos in the future, and I plan to record my entire playthrough of Tears of the Kingdom so I can more easily make videos on it. If you have any ideas for the game, feel free to let me know in the comments. But anyways, dry bones for Smash, and I'll see you guys next time.